Haunted Sounds Music Company released what one thinks was originally on a cassette or a couple cassettes or something. A Night in a Graveyard, A Night in a Haunted House. And in terms of the variety of sound and effect and staging and such for it, it's the best one that I have. It has that feature that you have in movies or stories where they're like, oh, don't do this or beware of this. And, they go do it anyways and they're careless and all that other stuff. So hearing the narrator introduce the things is our explanation. Helps with the effect for some, but for others, it's like not necessary. But you can use this as a guided meditation sort of thing. Entering the haunted house gives it the idea of, well, the place has a past, but it's like it's broken down and that's why it's haunted. But some experiences that people have, whether delusions or whether connecting to something actual, can be partially because of the condition of the place that they're in. Then this mad organist thing, yeah, it does get into that. Oh, this place is haunted and people play music and all that sort of stuff. But there is the music of the fairy. There is experiences that we've had that kind of replay to the point where like we can hear a song, although we don't physically hear the song or that sort of thing. Chamber of Horrors is like you're being introduced to like a museum, but it's not a museum, right? Or it is a museum, but it's like, torture chambers and all that sort of stuff. Bats in the Belfry isn't the only thing on this that gets into the fears of bats. But, people have that fear of things moving in the darkness. If you know that there are vampire bats, or even if they're not vampire bats and they kind of, prick and stuff. So you have that feeling of it's like birds of prey, but at night. But bats aren't really birds, so yeah. Well, there are owls with that one too. And if you've been seeing these holes where owls drag animals and they're black with blood or they're still red, and um it's, yeah, I guess something that some people would be scared of, particularly if they pick up a little cat that you have outside or something like that. You at least worry for the animals. And people say, if you can pick up the cat, can it hurt me? Or generally animals are going to leave you alone. The laboratory, you have the sounds of boiling and electrical stuff going on, and I don't know, they're trying to animate life. So like the whole zombie thing. Haunted ballroom. I guess it's creepy music or something. Some of the stuff that Anton Zandler of the Church of Satan might play for a show or something like that. The Snake Pit obviously, just like frogs and some other stuff, people are, because snakes can be a pretty serious threat, but they're usually going to stay rather quiet. So it's not like, but when you hear rattlesnakes and stuff like that, back off. Especially if you know the dehumanization and abuse of truths about what can happen in prisons. The sounds of the dungeons can certainly connect to that for people. Confinement, being chained up, being deprived of light, or social situations, punishments, uncontrolled, whipping and all that sort of stuff. But honestly, that works better as something to control society. If it's done public, and there doesn't have to be as much, at least be efficient with it. Thank you very much. And of course, people are scared of what dogs can do. There's what 10 breeds of dogs that can kill people. Other breeds can kill you by infection or something, but or hurt you. But there's pretty rational fears of dogs. Of course, most people, their issue with dogs is like allergies, or they're not a clean animal, so it's not quite the same thing. But there's certainly a lot of people afraid of dogs. Well, it sounds more like wild cats to a degree, though. And Kerberos, the hound, the three-headed hound of hell, and that sort of stuff. I guess that's what we're getting into. In the room of silence, well, you try to get into darkness and silence and all that other stuff, and then you find out there's something in there, right? But then you want your peace and quiet, and that's disturbed. So the pin drops, the glass breaks, whatever. And this long fuse and dynamite, it's not, okay, the sound stops. Oh, no, it doesn't go. And then it goes. Because that's how you die. You would think, oh, well, the fuse has stopped. I need to go towards it and do something. It's like, no, you gotta wait and wait and wait, right? So I presume that this program was made by people who watched Westerns, or that they lived in the time where that was one of the main types of movies, because people were worried about being accused of being a communist and all that stuff. So you didn't want to make a lot of sorts of movies that you might have otherwise made. Entering the graveyard, much like entering the haunted house, it has a lot of talking. I think it has more talking to you at that point. A lot of cemeteries are by churches, or they're specifically run by a church or synagogue or that sort of thing. And a lot of people ring bells. Bells actually are an instrument that can be used to summon the male and female invisible disincarnate beings, or to please them. Certainly, a lot of the ghost stories you hear are laid at the graveyard. A lot of my graveyard exploration videos, there's stuff I can't quite explain, or I explain in the video when I, okay, there was this indentation here, and that's why I felt that over there, and that sort of stuff. So things I experience before I interpret. Breathing. Well, you don't want to come up about people doing things illegally of one sort or another, or immorally in the graveyard, or maybe you do, I don't know. But so they can want to silence you or whatever about it. So there's worries about that. So that's where some of those fears come from. Be careful where you tread. You know, your breathing and your heart rate can give things away. Sometimes things will make sounds and stuff to get a reaction out of you, so you're going to do something. Other than falling and sinking and you know, you could startle something like a wolf. You can set stuff loose. You can you know, there could be a gust of wind that, you know, in one position versus another, that it's going to overtake you. And people have been scared of storms or the possibility of storms for, you know, about as long as you can think, probably. Even if they didn't make their way through a hurricane or a whirlwind or a tornado or something. The vampire mausoleum, we have the you know, some of the same stuff, owls and bats, and the door, you know, old doors and old lids and all that sort of stuff. Some of that comes through. I think the cat snarling is something that's unique to this. The witch's coven, you know, things are happening in nature. Are they responding to it, or is the witch responding to that? They think things are funny. They're, you know, they're doing sympathetic magic with substances and saying, you know, rhymes. And well, it's not limbo, it's hell. But hell is an influence. You can influence people to suffer in this life and in the next. You know, with their question of beliefs and actions. And of course, people have this idea of witches like they're just something out to hurt people. And that's not what defines a witch. Certainly, people of any faith can curse, as far as you know, I guess maybe there are some exceptions, but, you know, it's not always considered wrong. You know, witches aren't the only ones. The procession of the undead is of the same category as the laboratory sort of thing, but not really in the Dracula sense. You know, they're moving mindlessly along and chanting and but nothing wrong with chanting and going into automatic mode, but you know, you definitely don't want it. And so the last one, dangerous bridge, probably captures the fear of falling and heights and stuff better than the other ones. You know, you got splashing sounds and things that can cause weakness and unsteadiness of different sorts. Some of it's wood, some of it's whatever. And at some point in most of our lives, the risk of falling is definitely something there. And something unexpected can come at one. Now, just as with the other ones that I've shared in this series, there's other things that can be done with it. And, you know, you can look at the symbolism of the various things, haunted houses and haunted music halls and haunted apartment houses or haunted or thing you know, bats taking over things when humans aren't inhabiting them. mm, modern, modern, well, you don't be afraid of science, but the use of the science, right? And what are they doing with the music? What are they trying to do with us? What are they trying to bring in if it's not with us, you know? Some of the fear of snakes is people and they're not realizing the importance of some of those functions or whatever you can say for yourself. The hounds of hell, certainly, it's people aren't controlling their animals and they don't care about humans, some people. And, you know, that is literally why there's some issue with some of that. Practice meditating and then the sounds, you know, you can keep going. You don't stop every time you know, you hear something, you can, you know, you can stop on the side of the road and pray and, you know, and, you know, you can know what you're doing when you're doing things dangerous, and that takes away most of the danger. You can do stuff all the time and never get hurt. You know, hence knowing what you're doing or doing things with the cause and not worrying about it. Graveyards are perfectly healthy places to visit, just like places where stuff has happened before, or just the places going away. You know, careful if you're breathing. You know, there could be mold or something that you don't want to be overexposed to. And watch wherever you step. There's no problem with that. Storms, even if there's not a weather report, learn what to do with storms. Psychic vampires are the main ones, but there are people who attack, so you might want to learn some sort of self-defense, some sort of spiritual self-defense, some spiritual closing yourself off by establishing a practice that opens you in another way. With witches, don't worry too much what other people's spirituality is, whether it's open or secret. Their blasphemy or whatever, or whatever can't hurt you if you don't deserve it or if you're not a part of it. So yeah. And you know, try to have, if you're worried about the influence other people are having, try to have it influence yourself. And try to have connections that are valuable to you, or that are worth the risks that you are taking. You know, because you can consider your whole life and the cost of anything that you're doing. You know, these people making YouTube videos and broken down buildings and climbing stuff that, you know, and falling to their death. And because there are people who die doing that stuff, and it's, you know, our gangs take over some of these areas, and you know, they've tested things out. And so don't think a broken down building or something abandoned. Oh, here we opened a tomb and there's, you know, a bridge between one corridor and another corridor. Let's just walk on that old bridge, you know.